Hello, my name is Kent Philpott. I'm pastor of Miller Avenue Baptist Church in Mill Valley, California. I'd like to speak once again the issue of Pastor Rob Bell of Mars Hill Church in Michigan has said about, denying the doctrine of hell and looking toward kind of a universalistic salvation. This is not uncommon. Been done many times. Will be done many times before. It's just that the man is pastor of a mega church and has written a book, received a lot of attention. Therefore, its impact is fairly significant. And so I'd like to address that. It's not something, for example, I get necessarily real concerned about. Nothing new under the sun. But nevertheless, it is troubling and upsetting to a lot of people. Fact is that Christians will go through a process where we doubt things. After my first year of seminary, I was kind of unloaded on, and many of the things I learned when I was brand new Christian seemed to be challenged, and I went through a period of making sure everything was correct and having to own it myself rather than just to listen to it. So it's not unusual that Christians and Christian leaders should go through difficult times. Perhaps Rob Bell will come to a better understanding of things later on. But I think that it's a problem that many people have who have not had the full experience of the Christian life. I sometimes think that American Christianity is very antiseptic, particularly in the past few decades, when there has not been great outpourings of the Spirit, and see many of things firsthand that would have tendency to overcome our doubt. For example, in the Jesus movement, that period between about 1967 and about 1972 in America, there are different dates, but that's my experience of it. We experienced real healings and real casting out of demons. In other words, we encountered Satan and the demons firsthand and many hundreds of times. I've written several books in this area. The first was published by Zondervan about 1974 called A Manual of Demonology and the Occult, and then another book by Bible Voice a couple years later called The Deliverance Book, and most recently Earthen Vessel published How Christians Cast Out Demons Today. And we did that on a regular routine basis. It was very commonplace. And when you encounter Satan and demons up close and personal, in real time, not phony, fake, I mean really there, no stretch of the imagination, even people who were not believers saw it and were amazed. It has a tendency to overcome all of those doubts about the existence of Satan and demons and the existence of hell. Demons, we found, simply did not want to be cast out of an individual they had possessed. They did not want to be cast into hell. It was no shock to find that demons did not want to go there. And so for those who experience that, they'll never doubt the existence of hell again. In Jesus' ministry, sometimes it's said that you look at three different areas. His preaching, teaching ministry was one. His teaching of his called apostles and those others of the crowds who came to hear him. Then secondly was his healing ministry. Healing of real stuff, not placebo, emotionally based sort of healings, but real organic kind of stuff, which we did see in the Jesus movement. And then a third segment, and that was the casting out of demons. Then Jesus said in a couple of different places that he gave us his disciples authority to heal and to cast out demons. So that is unquestioned, has occurred throughout the history of the church, particularly in times of awakening, just like we experienced in the Jesus movement. So my thesis is that sometimes we pontificate or make pronouncements about things we're really not sure of, what we've never experienced, and we only read about and haven't been impacted by the reality of those things which Jesus said. I imagine that there are missionaries around the world dealing with cultures that have been infused with the demonic, who simply look and laugh and wonder about what someone like Rob Bell has said. It's just a person who perhaps hasn't experienced all that he could in this very antiseptic, very clean, middle-class kind of evangelical Christianity that we mostly experience. Now, in Matthew chapter 25, there is a segment where Jesus is speaking about the final judgment. He's talking about the separation of the sheep and the goats. The sheep on the right, the goats on the left. And by the way, those are not political statements, but that's just the way it would be. You know, Jesus seated at the right hand of the Father in heaven. At any rate, so he talks about that separation, and it's rather a dramatic statement that he makes. I'm going to read Matthew 25:41. Then he will say to those on his left, "Depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels." Wow. So there you go. You have the separation, and some will argue, well, the devil and the angels, they're in hell, but people are not. Well, that is not the proper context of the passage. As you finish the paragraph and the chapter, you come to verse 46 of Matthew 25 and says, "And these will go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous into eternal life." He makes it clear these are people who did not do the will of the Father. So that's just how it is. And then one other passage comes to mind out of the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 7, verses 21 to 23. Let me read these and see if this is not sufficient. "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. On that day many will say to me, 'Lord, Lord, did not we prophesy in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and do many mighty works in your name?' And then I will declare to you, I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness." Well, you know, annihilation is... a lot of the cultic groups and aberrant prophets will come up with that sort of thing, annihilation, after death, just nothing. Or many tiers of heaven and everybody gets one. Or reincarnation, you keep coming back until you get it right. Or you go to a place that's intermediary, and on through the prayers and ceremonies of others that perhaps you're able to escape that circumstance and find yourself in heaven instead of hell. Well, probably not. These are not biblical categories. These are not biblical materials at all. So we are not surprised when various people are heralded for their departure from biblical historical norms. Of course, you're looking for reinforcement that you are in fact okay with God, and no matter what you believe, you'll be okay. Jesus said, "No one comes to the Father but by him." And that is extremely offensive. So it's one thing, you know, we deal with the pronouncements of Jesus to do away with hell, just end up with heaven only. But then, you know, the statements of Jesus are so clear. The next attack is, of course, upon the uniqueness of Jesus himself. And so it is, as we say, the slippery slope, and where it stops, nobody knows. And so it is that one error opens the door to more. I hope this has been of some encouragement, and that we would see that as biblical Christians, we cannot, however unpleasant, back away from the doctrines of heaven and hell and Satan and the demons, they are all a part of the Christian worldview. So long.